some basic programs, mainly using functions, and C++ using Visual Studio as a compiler. And first off, we're going to go over here and open a new project, and we'll name this new project example. Well, new project, not open project, excuse me. In this project example, make sure you select empty project, and add new item, C++ file, I'd call mine main. And so then we'll go to the project, properties, system. I'll leave it over so you can see it. Minimum required version, right above that, subsystem. Console, apply, okay, and we're ready. Start making our program. Alright. First we need to include necessary header files that we're going to be using. We'll be using IOString. I always use this for every program. And we'll be using strings, so we want to include the string header file. And we're going to use using namespace std. That way we don't have to do the weird looking stuff like this all the time. We can just do this. Yeah. Alright, and now I'm going to do our main function, integer. I don't like to leave mine like that, even though you can, because it doesn't actually technically recognize spaces. And it's going to return 0. And right here, this is a function. This is the return of the function. It's going to be an integer. Function name is main. This one right here, your main integer, you don't have to put anything in there. I have yet to come into use to do programs of maybe complexity that might need that. I don't even know if it's something, but moving on. We're gonna guess our program is going to be taking two different strings, in this case 2 names, and judging whether they were equal regardless of their capitalization throughout the entire word. And to do this, we're going to take a string, name 1, and name 2, and we need to do this too. We need a variable to put them in once they've been capitalized. We're going to do this by capitalizing them and then comparing them. So we'll capitalize every character individually. You're going to get an error because we haven't actually wrote the function for that yet. That's what, well, we're pretty much defining the variable right here, or giving it a place, excuse me, to reside. Next, function string uppercase it is what we're going to call it. And we need to add a pretty much a secondary name for a variable, string variables. Alright, here we're going to have a for loop. It's pretty much saying is for integer I equals 0, I integer is smaller than character length, string length, and at the same time I++ is the same thing as if you were saying I equals I plus 1, so it's counting up. I'll put those in brackets. Alright, now we need our curly braces. Inside here we're going to have our meat and potatoes. And so S is going to be capitalized in there, right here. Takes each character and capitalizes it. And these shouldn't be ones. These should be I's. And the I is actually, the integer is going to be every character. And every character is going to be put in that, then uppercased. And it's going to keep doing that until there's no more characters in the string. And at the end, we want it to return S to us. Alright, down here we're going to judge whether it's true or false, because we need bool. The strings are the same. So, string 1, S1, string 2, S2, and this is also where we're going to have the user enter those two names. So cout, enter name 1. And that's going to go into the S1 variable. That's why up there it's in the red, because it doesn't actually have been created yet. And right here we're calling a function. That's why we made this function. So every time, if you want to do a big program, every time you want to do that problem, you would call the function instead of having to type it out every time. And this has other uses, and I'll explain some of this other stuff I'm typing when I'm done. As you can see, same thing as before. It's asking the user for those strings, in this case a name. It's putting them in a variable, and then it's taking that variable and it's calling the function to uppercase it, and it's doing it for both of those. Alright, now down here you have another if statement. If S1 is equal to, is equal to S2, then the names return true. And close that. Else. If else. So if S1 is not equal to S2, then that means they're not equal, and we will have the program tell them the names are not the same. And we'll return that as false. We need to close that as well. And that's our program. I need to look over it, find out what I did wrong here. Oh, that's why. Whenever you use functions, you can either put the function above main, which I don't like doing, or you can prototype it up here, and that's because the program reads from top to bottom. But say if I prototype this function up here, when the program goes to read, it won't get to the it'll get to the prototype first, and the program will make a note of this. The system will take a note of this and call on it later on, or excuse me, know it's to be called on later on, and you'll see all those. Oh, I must have made another mistake. Let's find out what I did. That's what I did. It's a typo. Alright, so I had mistype right there, and so we'll go up here, start without debugging. Yes, I would like to build it. I'll build my program, no errors, enter name 1, enter name 2, the names are the same, and let's try it out again. The names are not the same. So that is it. Let's go through and explain some of this. Header files, using namespace std, that way you don't have to type a bunch of different ones like you have to type there's a bunch of different ones I don't know because I have never had to use them. But then we want to do, these are prototypes for our functions. Our first function, our main function, here our variables are stored. Our next function is uppercase it. Our for loop inside. Our count. Bam. Like I said before, they'll keep doing this until there's no more characters to count. And then our bool function, which is where the user enters the two names that are going to be stored as S1. See up here too, they're called. That way the function knows what to deal with. If I wanted to compare 3, I could easily rewrite the rest of the program to allow another variable, but I could do string S3, and I could compare 3 or 4 strings. I could compare as many as I want, to be honest with you, but I have to do it all down here. And it could only do it if they're all alike or they're not all alike. With what I have right here. If you look right here, anything in parentheses, excuse me, quotations is going to be a string. It's whatever you type, it's going to show up in the program. There are some characters that will show up in Visual Studio, will not show up in the console, so you won't get exactly what you want. Right here, this means the same as this, which means inline. After this, it's not going to run the next thing it shows up together, because the program compiler does not recognize spaces. And this is just an easier way to do it. Inline, you can do it inline, you can do it kind of, well, they're both inline, but this is in the string, this is out of the string, both inline. And I think that's the main thing. Obviously, if you don't write programs using Visual Studio, you're not going to know a lot of this, but I appreciate you watching my video.